Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Is a ceasefire in Gaza within reach? What is Israel's response? Has Benjamin Netanyahu been defeated? We look at these questions and more as part of our top story tonight on Gravitas. And here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show. We get you a special ground report from Astana with all the updates on the Shanghai Cooperation Organization or SCO Summit as our correspondent gets us up to speed with the very latest and the key takeaways. 3 deaths in the southern Indian state of Kerala caused by a deadly rare brain-eating amoeba infection have sent alarm bells ringing. Researchers in Australia have developed a new AI tool to help select the best treatment for cancer patients. We get to the details. All this and more coming up tonight. Has Benjamin Netanyahu been defeated? If you have seen the headlines today, a ceasefire in Gaza could be within reach. In fact, Hamas has delivered a truce proposal. It includes the release of hostages. So, what really is Israel's response, you ask? They are studying the document. They are not saying yes to a ceasefire yet. So the question is, what is stopping them? Why is Israel not jumping on the opportunity to say truce? What does Israel's non-response tell you? Because to us, it proves one thing. For the Israeli leader, Benjamin Netanyahu, saying yes to ceasefire may mean acknowledging the fact that they have lost the war. In fact, the fires in northern Israel after cross-border attacks with Hezbollah continue to blaze, with the potential war with Hezbollah in Lebanon taking shape. Has Netanyahu realized that there is nowhere else to go in Gaza? Has he accepted that Israel cannot defeat Hamas? Now, here's where things stand right now. On Wednesday, signs of renewed activity emerged in the quest for a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas, and that's crucial. After weeks of little public diplomacy, mediators from Egypt and Qatar delivered a response from Hamas to a proposal. The proposal includes 2 main points, basically. Release of hostages held in Gaza, also a ceasefire in the Palestinian enclave. Israel is currently studying the document. This was confirmed by a statement from the Prime Minister Netanyahu's office on behalf of the Mossad spy agency. Now, for months, mediators from Egypt, Qatar and the US have tried to secure a truce and the release of the remaining hostages in Gaza, but their efforts have repeatedly failed. And why is that? Because Hamas insists that any deal must end the war and bring a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. And Netanyahu, on the other hand, says Israel will only accept temporary pauses in the fighting until Hamas is totally eradicated. But you see, it's been 9 months since the war erupted. Even after 9 grueling months, Israel has not eradicated Hamas. What Israel has done in these 9 months of the war is destroyed 3/4 of Gaza City. 9 months of constant bombardment, 9 months of total devastation, 9 months of unimaginable pain for the ordinary Palestinians. Even today, Israeli bombs continue to fall on Gaza. In the last 24 hours, at least 12 people were killed in Israeli strikes in central and northern Gaza. Overnight, Israeli forces carried out new strikes in the north, in the south, I beg your pardon, new strikes in the south amid fierce fighting with Hamas. In Rafah, fighting persisted with Israeli tanks seizing several districts and advancing further west and north of the city. You see, 9 months later, the Israeli Prime Minister has no exit strategy for Gaza. And he has not yet shared a vision for what Gaza would look like after the war. There is no real plan for the future. That is why we say that the revival of the ceasefire talks is a consequence of Netanyahu losing the war in a way he has not been able to defeat Hamas or bring back the hostages. And while Israel's war in Gaza looks like a lost cause, another is raging at its northern border with Lebanon. Hamas's more powerful ally, Hezbollah, is based there after all. And just today, Hezbollah launched more than 200 rockets and drones targeting Israeli military positions. This was in response to an Israeli strike that killed a senior commander of the armed group. A full-blown war between Israel and Hezbollah seems inevitable. We've been telling you that. The Israeli military knows it. And that is why the Israeli top generals want a Gaza ceasefire, even if it keeps Hamas in power for the time being. You see, the Israeli commanders are ready to admit what apparently Netanyahu isn't. A ceasefire would be the best way to secure the release of the remaining Israeli hostages and give the overstretched Israeli forces much needed time to regroup in case a war with Hezbollah breaks out. Even Hezbollah has said that the only sure path to a ceasefire on the Lebanon-Israel border is a full ceasefire in Gaza. Now, this is not the first time Hezbollah has said many times, we will stop attacking Israel if Israel stops attacking Gaza. Today, all the headlines suggesting that Israel and Hamas appear to be on the brink of a deal, but we cannot look away from Israel's war in Gaza. The question on our minds is, what is the cause of Israel's belligerence? Does Israel have a rational reason for the assault on Gaza anymore? You cannot pursue a war without one. When Hamas waged the deadly attack on October 7, Israel had a reason to fight back, to defend itself. 9 months later, the cause seems dissipated. Not to mention the damage the war has caused to Israel's global reputation. If a war breaks out between Israel and Hezbollah, the entire region will be engulfed in conflict. If you listen to the US, none of the parties want that, apparently. But this is West Asia we are talking about. Things could change rapidly. And given all that, a ceasefire in Gaza is the best possible scenario for Israel as of now. So then, what is stopping Israel from saying yes? Netanyahu continues to thump the drums of war with Hezbollah, but his military is unprepared for a second front. They are saying no. Does he really expect them to destroy Hezbollah when the goal of defeating Hamas has not been achieved yet? Does he really believe that they have the capacity to do that while they are still fighting Hamas in Gaza? Netanyahu already knows he has lost the war. It's just a matter of when he admits that. The movement for quality government in Israel is demanding that the Israel Defense Forces immediately start drafting ultra-Orthodox students into the army for compulsory military service. This follows a Supreme Court ruling after years-long legal exemption expired. With the protesters on both the sides taking to the streets, the issue could mean trouble for the Prime Minister Netanyahu's coalition. Our correspondent Jody Cohen explaining.
This is a debate that the State of Israel has been grappling with for decades. It's become particularly emotive since Hamas's 7th of October attack, with the Israel Defense Forces considering extending military service as well as reserve duty. The ultra-Orthodox believe the military exemption is important because they consider studying the Bible to be Israel's secret weapon against its enemies. There is also concern about the secular army having an influence on their religious way of life. There are strong feelings and protests on both sides, with seculars believing that religious people in the country should share the burden of military service. We spoke to Rabbi Eitan Ben David, who has himself served in the army, to understand more about this issue.
They're studying Torah in Jewish seminaries is what protects the Jewish people, not F-16 tanks and soldiers on the ground. Number two, they are very afraid that if they join the IDF, their children will assimilate to secular Israeli society and not maintain their religious identity. I believe that a person can combine these two things. You could study in a Jewish seminary and also serve on the front lines. I myself served in a Hesder unit which combines these two things, and this I believe to be the true ideal of the Jewish Bible.
Prime Minister Netanyahu's coalition is made up of several parties, including his own secular Likud party, which would like to see a gradual increase in ultra-Orthodox military service. The coalition also includes the ultra-Orthodox Shas and United Torah Judaism parties, which oppose the draft. Finally, the coalition includes the ultra-nationalist religious parties, whose constituents serve in the army and who believe it is possible to combine Torah study and military service. Now, whether or not this issue could break up the coalition depends on if a compromise can be found. This is Jodie Cohen for WION World is One.
Moving on for now to this other top story that we are tracking for you at this hour. Is Pakistan arming its fighter jets with nukes? It certainly looks like it. In fact, an image has surfaced of Pakistan's JF-17 Thunder Block 2. The image is from 2023 Pakistan Day Parade. A recent analysis by an American think tank, FAS, suggests that Pakistan has pulled out its nukes from its silos and putting them on its jets. The photograph depicts a JF-17 carrying what appears to be a RAD air-launched cruise missile, ALCM. It is Pakistan's only nuclear-capable air-launched cruise missile. This image is the first public observation of this kind of configuration. The missile was first tested in 2007, and in the year 2017, the U.S. Air Force National Air and Space Intelligence Center reported that the missile was conventional or nuclear, also known as dual-capable system. Now, to ascertain whether it was the original version of the extended range RAD-2, the American think tank that first observed this carried out comparisons, and they basically compared both the versions of the missile displayed in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2021, 2022 and 2024 Pakistan Day parades. Both versions featured a new engine air intake. But while RAD-2 was presented as having nearly double the range capability, it was not clearly observable through external features. The version of the RAD-2 was displayed at the 2022 Pakistan Day Parade. This, according to the think tank, has an X-shaped tail fin configuration, whereas the previous versions of the missile had the twin tail configurations. The report saying that this year's Pakistan Day Parade showcased two distinct versions of the RAD with their respective tail fin arrangements. The fin arrangements of the photographed missile on the JF-17 appear to more closely match the twin tail configuration of the RAD-1 rather than the newer X-shaped tail of the RAD-2. Technicalities aside, The JF-17s, jointly developed by Pakistan and China, are tipped to take over from the Air Force's aging Mirage 3 and 5 aircraft. Pakistan had procured over 130 operational JF-17s. That is a known fact. But the fact that Pakistan seems to have put the nukes on their jets is concerning for mainly two reasons. Number one, can a state friendly to terrorists be trusted to handle nuclear weapons so freely? What happens when terrorists get hold of a nuclear bomb? And number two, what is Pakistan's nuclear program? Nobody really knows. It is fraught with uncertainties due to long-standing government secrecy. You see, India is already inducting Rafales that can carry nuclear weapons. The fact that Pakistan is equipping its JF-17 fighter jets with RAD-1 missiles seems to be a response to that. But the difference between India and Pakistan is that only one of them has a seriously disciplined military. So then is it safe for Pakistan to equip its jets with nukes? What happens when a pilot goes rogue? The image provides evidence that Pakistan has made significant progress in equipping its JF-17s with the capability to supplement or replace the nuclear strike role of the aging Mirage 3 or 5. But questions remain about the deployment status of the RAD systems and whether Pakistan will continue to retain a nuclear gravity bomb capability or transition to standoff cruise missiles exclusively. Right now, it is unclear whether either of the RAD missile variants has been operationally deployed. But even the think tank that first made the observation has assessed that it may only be a matter of time before Pakistan deploys them. Let's now shift our focus to Kazakhstan, where leaders of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or SCO, arrived on Thursday for the start of the two-day summit in Astana. Chinese President Xi Jinping, the Russian President Vladimir Putin, and the Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif are in attendance. The Indian delegation is being represented by the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, who has held bilateral meetings with his counterparts from the SCO members, Tajikistan, Russia, and the newest member, Belarus, on the sidelines. The Indian External Affairs Minister also met his Chinese counterpart, Wang Yi, where the two agreed to step up talks to resolve issues along the border. China and India should properly handle their differences and ensure relations advance on stable tracks. That is the takeaway coming in. In a veiled attack at Pakistan, Dr. S. Jaishankar asked the global community to isolate countries, providing safe havens to terrorists. The minister said that cross-border terrorism requires decisive response and terrorism financing. He said that terror recruitment must be resolutely countered. The minister also stressed that the summit holds a key position in India's foreign policy. Meanwhile, the Chinese President Xi Jinping urged members of the Regional Security Club to resist external meddling. The Russian President Vladimir Putin expected to speak about creating a new Eurasian security system at the group's annual meeting. Both Putin and Xi Jinping have expanded the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, a club founded in 2001 with Russia, China, and Central Asian nations to include India, Iran, and Pakistan as a counterweight to the West. In fact, the grouping also representing the new key customers for Russian energy, as Western economic sanctions imposed over the Ukraine war have forced Moscow to pivot towards Asia. Speaking at the summit, the Chinese president said that the bloc must resolve internal differences, seek common ground, and resolve cooperation difficulties. And for more on this, our correspondent Anas Malik joining us live from Astana on the broadcast. Hi, Anas. Get us up to speed with the latest that you have at this point. Looking at the timing of this crucial summit taking place amid two wars and tensions flaring up.
Well, Molly, as global multilateralism seems to be breaking down, this regional approach seems to what has been adopted, and as the Kremlin calls it, as a tectonic shift in its foreign policy, with the accession of Belarus in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The Russian president made it clear that this is not an anti-West alliance. The Chinese president, you rightly mentioned, had emphasized on the point that there needs to be more cohesion, more focus on building bridges internally, irrespective of whatever the differences are. The Indian External Affairs Minister, who was representing the Indian Prime Minister, who could not make it due to the ongoing parliamentary session, made a mention with regards to cross-border terrorism, and the Pakistani Prime Minister, on his part, said that terrorism should not be used as a political bogey, while also making a reference and calling on to the ceasefire in Gaza. Now, that being said, the Astana Declaration talks about security and economic cooperation. That's something that more of a pat on the back that the Kazakh side would be expecting, because given the differences that it had, they certainly managed to get a consensus on 20+ documents. Molly?
Right. Also talking about the significance of the SCO plus convening, Anas, if you could just break down why that's important and what the takeaways and the expectations so far have been.
Well, the SCO Plus particularly, it was appreciated by the UN Secretary General while speaking. Antonio Guterres was the first speaker after the Kazakh president, who was the host, and he said that he appreciated the body for the fact that it is diverse and that is focused, because remember, SCO represents 40% of the world's population and almost 1/3 of the world's GDP, about 32% of the world's GDP. That being said, the SCO Plus format is giving a window to other countries, those who would want to be part or would want to be part of the SCO in the longer run, to know how it feels, what it's like to be part of the team, to be part of the grouping. That is number one. And number two, it also signals to the West that this grouping, the SCO grouping, is not confined by borders or by language only. So that's definite messaging on the part of Russia and China combined by convening the first SCO Plus meeting here in Kazakhstan. And they vow that these meetings will continue going forward. Molly?
Anas Malik getting us up to speed with the very latest. Thanks very much for now. The winds of war shifting in Ukraine and bringing chilling concern for the fate of the incoming F-16 fighter jets. Russia's brutal campaign to cripple Ukrainian air power resulted in a series of devastating strikes on air bases, which are the potential future homes for the American F-16s. This fierce onslaught throwing up a critical question. Can Ukraine really shield these advanced jets from Russian aggression? The Russian Ministry of Defense's recent claim of destroying 5 Su-27 fighters and damaging 2 others in precision strikes on the Ukrainian military airports, sending a chilling message. The aggressive targeting of air assets and infrastructure is likely a prelude to a broader strategy, one that is aimed at neutralizing Ukraine's improved air capabilities, with the F-16s squarely in Moscow's crosshairs, and these attacks underscoring the formidable obstacles that Kiev faces in its attempt to rejuvenate its depleted air force by inducting the US-designed F-16s. The first of these fighter jets expected to arrive this month. The outgoing Dutch government saying the Netherlands will soon supply Ukraine with the first of the 24 promised F-16 fighter jets. The necessary permits to deliver the jets to Ukraine were granted after months of coalition building following an election last year. However, the Netherlands declined to specify how many planes will be delivered in the first batch and when they will arrive in Ukraine. Ukraine hoping that they will bolster the defenses against the ongoing Russian onslaught along the front lines. These lines are currently subjected to devastating Russian glide bomb attacks that the F-16s could potentially disrupt. In addition to the aerial threats, Ukraine's ground situation is increasingly precarious. The Ukrainian military sources reporting that troops have withdrawn from parts of Chasiv Yar in the eastern Donetsk region. Now, this move follows Russia's claim that its forces had secured a district within the strategic town.
The enemy has a big advantage in the air. If we could intercept at least half of what they have, supercams, Orlans, it would have been much harder for the enemy, much harder. But since our airspace is not protected, there's nothing we can do.
Chasiv Yar holds significant tactical significance as it sits on elevated terrain. Should Russian forces fully capture the town, it could serve as a crucial staging ground for further advances towards key Ukrainian cities like Kramatorsk and Sloviansk. The intensified focus on Ukrainian air bases combined with ground losses like those in Chasiv Yar, reflecting the mounting challenges that Kiev faces. The anticipated arrival of F-16s, while offering a potential boost, also coming with significant risks as Russia remains determined to neutralize these assets. Let's now shift focus to the U.S. elections. President Joe Biden faces what may be the most critical 24 hours of his career. He has been battling hard to save his 54-year political career, and with the clock ticking, the public holiday has allowed him to regroup his political strategy. Biden has put all speculation to rest. He vows to stay in the presidential race despite his shaky performance in the first debate. Biden has reassured top Democrats that he is fit for re-election. This after a New York Times report said the president is weighing in on his decision to continue. Presidential polls are just 4 months away and Biden has a lot of image cleaning up to do. He has an interview scheduled tomorrow with ABC News, following which Biden will be hosting campaign events in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. The White House has been working day in and day out to shore up support for the leader. Earlier in the day, Biden met with Democratic governors. After a closed-door meeting, the governors pledged their support to Biden's re-election bid.
The president has always had our backs. We're going to have his back as well, because the results that we've been able to see under this administration have been undeniable in all of our individual states. But the thing that makes us most optimistic and most hopeful is not necessarily that we're afraid of an alternative, but also is that we're hopeful for the future.
I'm here to tell you today, President Joe Biden is in it to win it. And all of us said we pledged our support to him because the stakes could not be higher.
Now, a section of Democrats are reportedly ready to back Vice President Kamala Harris if Biden steps aside. As per reports, House Democrat Jim Clyburn has said he will support Kamala Harris as the presidential candidate if Biden were to depart, and so do a handful of governors who are potential rivals to Biden. Reports suggesting Harris is the likely successor if pressure for Biden to step aside increases. And amid this speculation, Harris herself has said that she is proud to be Joe Biden's running mate.
Joe Biden is our nominee. We beat Trump once, and we're going to beat him again, period. I am proud to be Joe Biden's running mate. Thank you.
And meanwhile, Donald Trump is ceding the spotlight to Biden. He has claimed that Biden is quitting. A leaked video clip showing Trump on the golf course has surfaced on social media. In the video, Trump can be heard calling Kamala Harris pathetic, quote unquote. Listen in.
He's that old broken down pile of yeah, it's a bad guy. He just quit, you know. He's quitting the race. Is that right? Yep, I got him out of the race. And that means we have Kamala. I think she's going to be better. She's so bad. She's so pathetic. It's so amazing. It's just I just can't imagine. But can you imagine that guy with dealing with Putin and the president of China, who's a fierce person? He's a fierce man.
As Biden replacement talks rebuild, Trump's Republican allies have launched a political campaign in a bid to discredit the leader. In a flurry of statements, Trump's allies have called Harris Biden's enabler-in-chief. The seemingly coordinated escalation is seen as a move to weaken Harris, even if she emerges as a nominee. deadly rare brain infection is on the prowl. The infection is caused by a brain-eating amoeba. Yes, a brain-eating amoeba. In the latest, fears have shot up, and there is serious concern after scary stories have come to light. How exactly is this infection caused? What are the symptoms? What do we know about it? How dangerous is it? Should you be worried? Let's tell you all that you need to know. First, let me get you the lowdown about what happened. This brain-eating amoeba has made its way to the headlines. Here's what we know so far. A 14-year-old boy has died of the infection. It has been reported that the boy got the infection after swimming in a small pond. This is the third death due to the infection since the month of May in the state of Kerala in India. First came the death of a 5-year-old girl from Malappuram on the 21st of May. Then a 13-year-old girl from Kannur died on the 25th of June. And now comes the death of a 14-year-old boy. I know this sounds scary. The child had reportedly taken a dip at a small pond and preventive measures were being taken as per reports. Now, this latest case has sent shock waves across the country. I'm sure you have a lot of questions on your mind. Let's break down for you what we know so far. First things first, what is this infection called? Amoebic meningoencephalitis. It is, like we said, a rare brain infection. An amoeba called Naegleria fowleri causes the infection. It is typically found in untreated water and soil. Naegleria cannot survive in properly treated swimming pools or in properly treated municipal water. How does one contract the infection, you ask? The amoeba can get into the body during activities like swimming. It can enter the body through the nose, the nasal passages basically. What happens next? It can then make its way to the brain, leading to brain inflammation and primary amoebic meningoencephalitis. This is potentially fatal. It is said it eventually destroys the brain tissue by eating it, and hence the name the brain-eating amoeba. There are several species of Naegleria, but only the fowleri species causes PAM. It was first identified in Australia. What are the symptoms of the infection? Fever, headache, loss of appetite, vomiting, nausea, among others. The lack of widely effective treatments is a serious concern, with a combination of medications being used to deal with it. What precautions can be taken then? How can one safeguard themselves? Now, it is extremely important to avoid warm, freshwater activities. It's because that is how the amoeba can actually enter the body, like we just told you. Apart from ensuring that the water sources are properly treated. So these are the major precautions that can be taken to keep yourself safe. Moving on for now, Hurricane Beryl triggering a spate of evacuations in Mexico and the Cayman Islands after battering Jamaica's southern coast with strong winds and a storm surge. Beryl weakened to a Category 3 storm overnight, sustaining winds of 200 kilometers an hour. It is, however, forecast to be at or near major hurricane intensity while it passes by the Caymans. The storm has left a trail of destruction across the Caribbean, killing at least 7 people. The storm triggered flash floods and mudslides in its wake as it moved towards Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. The storm is the first to reach Category 4 level in June and the earliest to reach Category 5 in July. Mexican officials prepared for intense rains and wind gusts amid warnings that Beryl will remain a hurricane until it makes landfall on the Yucatan Peninsula. The government has prepared 112 shelters with a capacity for around 20,000 people and suspended school in the state of Quintana Roo, where Beryl will likely hit. In Jamaica, over 400,000 people were without power due to the storm. In fact, Jamaica declared curfew across the island of 2.8 million in Grenada. The storm killed at least 3 people after making landfall on Monday. 1 death was reported from St. Vincent and the Grenadines and 3 from Venezuela. Ralph Gonsalves, Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, said it will take a Herculean effort to rebuild after the substantial destruction, and that 90-odd% of the houses were blown away on Union Island. Grenada's Prime Minister, Dickon Mitchell, said that the island of Caracou, that was struck by the eye of the storm, is cut off, with houses, telecommunications and fuel facilities flattened. The 35-square-kilometre island is home to around 9,000 people. At least 2 people lost their lives, while a third was killed on the country's main island of Grenada when a tree fell on a house. It is extremely rare for such a powerful storm to form this early in the Atlantic hurricane season that runs from early June to late November. Warm ocean temperatures are key for hurricanes, and North Atlantic waters are currently between 2 and 5 degrees Fahrenheit, 1 to 3 degrees Celsius warmer than normal. The capabilities of artificial intelligence are rapidly advancing with each passing day. And now researchers in Australia have developed a new AI tool to help select the best treatment for cancer patients. The tool is called DeepPT. It has been created by researchers at the Australian National University. DeepPT works by predicting a patient's messenger RNA profile. Messenger RNA is crucial for protein production in cells and is key to personalized cancer medicine. The AI tool was found to have successfully predicted patient responses to various cancer therapies. As per its makers, the tool has shown an improvement in patient response rates from 33.3% to 46.5%. The creators of DeepPT have trained it on data from over 5,500 patients across 16 common cancer types, including breast, lung, head and neck, cervical and pancreatic cancers. Additionally, the AI tool uses microscopic images of patient tissue known as histopathology images. This basically provides another important benefit for the patients. It reduces delays in processing complex molecular data, which can take weeks and affect those needing immediate treatment. Researchers have stated that with the AI tool, histopathology images are routinely available, cost-effective and also timely. For amputees, learning to move with a prosthetic is a new challenge. It can feel like an unmanageable limb that doesn't feel normal. Thanks to new mind-control prosthetics, this can actually change. The new prosthetic limb helps amputees walk and move more naturally. This video from the US research university MIT showing a patient walking up and down the stairs with a near natural gait. This is possible because of a surgical procedure that allows the brain to connect with the prosthesis to mimic natural movement. The surgery, called the agonist-antagonist myoneural interface or AMI, allows the body's nervous system to control the prosthesis like it would control a natural leg. The prosthetic limb basically relays information from the patient's muscles to their nervous system, helping achieve more natural movement.
Limb is amputated, we connect muscles in natural agonist-antagonist pairs, so that when the person thinks and moves their phantom leg, those muscles move dynamically, just as they did before the leg was amputated. We then put sensors on those muscles to detect activations and movements, and those data are then decoded by small little computers on the robot that tell the machine how to move.
MIT researchers with colleagues from Brigham and Women's Hospital studied 7 people who had the AMI surgery and 7 who had traditional below-knee amputations. They found that AMI patients could walk faster, avoid obstacles, and also climb stairs more naturally than others. They also experienced less pain and less muscle atrophy after surgery. The procedure is still in trial stages, but researchers believe it will open new possibilities for amputees when it becomes commercially available in about 5 years. T20 World Champions India are finally back home. The team took part in a victory parade in Mumbai to celebrate their triumph. After a delay of about 3 hours, the Rohit Sharma-led side embarked on an open-top bus parade at the iconic Marine Drive, where around 1 million fans gathered to meet their heroes. A sea of fans had been waiting eagerly to greet their heroes in Marine Drive for hours. The parade was scheduled to begin at 5 p.m. local time, but was delayed. Typical of the spirit of the citizens of Mumbai, even